Hello readers, we're going to continue with the Sign of the Beaver with chapter 19. If you remember from chapter 18, Matt showed great bravery by trying to save a Ten's dog that he found in the woods caught in a trap, and he showed even more bravery when he went back to the village to either get to the Native American village to either get a Ten or a Saskinans, and ultimately had to get help from a Ten's grandmother who he knew did not like him. So let's read chapter 19. Grandmothers say you come to village today, a Ten announced 2 days later. That's kind of her, Matt answered, but my hand is just about healed. It doesn't need any more medicine. Not for medicine. Matt waited uncertainly. My grandmother very surprised white boy go long way for Indian dog. A Ten explained. She say you welcome. So once again, Matt crossed the river into the Indian stockade. This time, though the dogs barked at him and children stared and giggled, he did not feel so much like a stranger. Sackiness held out a hand of welcome. A Ten's grandmother did not exactly smile, but her thin lips were less grim. Behind her, a Ten's sister smiled but did not speak. The old woman dipped a clamshell ladle into a kettle and filled 3 bowls with a stew of fish and corn, then drew back while a Ten and Sackiness and Matt ate their meal in silence. Neither she nor Marie ate till the men were finished. After the meal, a Ten did not hurry him away. He rather grandly played host and led Matt about the village. He was amused when Matt kept stopping every few feet to watch what the women were doing. Matt was filled with curiosity. He knew well enough that a Ten was scornful of the squaw work the white boy had to do, but a Ten didn't have to worry about what he was going to eat the next day. There was so many things Matt wanted to learn. He observed carefully as 2 women pounded dry kernels of corn between 2 round stones, catching the coarse flour on a strip of birch bark. He marked how they spread berries on bark so that the sun dried them hard as pebbles. He admired the baskets made of single strip of birch bark, bent and fastened at the corner so tightly that water could be boiled inside. I must remember that, he resolved. I could do that myself if I tried. For a time, a Ten good-natured answered his questions. Finally, he grew impatient of squaw work. He led Matt towards a cluster of boys who squatted in a circle in the dirt pathway, absorbed in some noisy game. The boys widened their ring to make room for 2 more, and Matt crouched awkwardly on his heels to watch them. One after another, they were shaking 6 smooth bone discs in a wooden bowl and tossing them out into the ground. Each disc was marked on one side with a band of red paint. Each boy had a turn. The one who had thrown the most discs to land paint side up was proclaimed the winner, and with much gloating, he collected from each of the others a number of small sticks. Then they handed the bowl to Matt. His luck was good. 5 of the discs showed red bands, and with laughter and clowning, the others piled up before him a little heap of sticks. What was so exciting about this simple game, he wondered, to cause so much shouting? The bowl went rapidly around the circle. The sticks kept changing hands, and presently he had the answer. One of the boys had no sticks left to pay. With a mocking groan, he unclasped from his arms a wide copper band and tossed it to the winner. So that's it, Matt thought silently. Sooner or later, I'm bound to lose too, and when I do, what will I expect me to forfeit? He did not have long to wait. And his next turn, every one of the discs landed blank side up. Ruefully, he handed over the last of the sticks he had won. There was a gleeful shout, and then they waited. What do I have? He thought desperately. Nothing in his pockets but a jackknife, and his very life depended upon that knife. Then the boy nearest to him reached over and jerked roughly at the sleeve of his shirt. Matt pretended not to understand, and the boy tugged harder. 2 of the others got to their feet, plainly ready to tear the shirt from his back. A Ten made no move to help him. Grimly, he pulled the shirt over his head and tossed it to the winner. It served him right, he supposed. His father had always forbidden him to gamble, but what was he going to do without that shirt? It was the only one he had. Now a 10 put an end to the game. He leapt to his feet and produced from nowhere a soft ball made of deerskin. Instantly, the others raced off in all directions and came back carrying thin sticks. One of these was thrust at Matt. It was a curious sort of bat, light and flexible with a wide, flat curve at the tip. Forgetting his humiliation, Matt suddenly grinned. With a bat in his hand, he could hold his own with any Indian. The boys back in Quincy could have told them that. Eagerly, he joined in the scramble of choosing sides. But never had he played a game like this, so fast and merciless. The ball could not be touched by hand nor foot. It was kept flying through the air by sticks alone. If it fell on the ground, some player scooped it up in the tip of his bat and sent it spinning again. The Indian boys were bewilderingly quick and skillful. They wielded their bats with no heed for each other's heads and certainly not for Matt's. It was no accident, he knew, when an elbow jabbed suddenly into his right eye. These boys were putting him to the test. Ignoring the blows that fell on his head and shoulders, Matt swung grimly at the whirling ball, missing it over and over, but sometimes feeling the satisfying thwack of the bat against leather. He was thankful now that he had no shirt. If only he could be wearing a breechcloth instead of a tight English breeches. But there was no time for worrying about his clothes. Finally, by pure luck, he sent the ball into the hole in the ground that marked the goal. Out of breath and dripping, he grinned as his side generously cheered him and whacked his sore shoulders. Then, with a whoop, they raced all together through the stockade gate, down to the river, and went leaping like frogs into the water. Matt floated face down, grateful for the coolness against his burning cheeks. All at once, a brown arm circled his neck and dragged him under. Squirming free, he seized a black head in both hands, and the two boys went down together. They came up gasping and grinning. Suddenly, Matt was enjoying himself. It was almost as good as being back in Quincy again. The sun had reached the tops of the pines when he went to a Ten's cabin to bid the grandmother goodbye. She stood studying him, and he flushed under her sharp eyes. She must look a sight, he knew. There was a lump as big as an egg on his forehead, and his right eye was probably turning black. She turned and spoke a few stern words to a Ten. With a shrug, he went out and returned in a few moments carrying Matt's shirt. "They play trick on you," he grinned. "Joke." "Some joke," Matt retorted. He wanted to refuse the shirt, but he couldn't afford to be proud. He couldn't afford to be proud about his only shirt. Resentfully, he pulled it over his head. Before they left, the old woman gave each of them a slab of cake heavy with nuts and berries. Her eyes, as she looked at her grandson, were warm and bright. Matt was minded how his mother had often looked at him, pretending to be angry with him, but not able to hide that she was mighty fond of him just the same. Suddenly, he felt a sharp stab of homesickness. Outside the cabin, a Ten's dog waited. He limped after them to the river, and when Matt stepped into the canoe, the dog jumped in after them and settled down only a few inches from Matt's knee. He had never willingly come so close before. A Ten noticed and commented, "Dog remember." Was that possible, Matt wondered? Could a dog caught in a trap, even though he snapped out in pain and fear, sense that someone was trying to help him? Could the dog remember that terrible ordeal at all? Could you read a dog's